I can see the hidden true identity tags of everyone. The neighborhood security guard has "Retired Soldier King" floating above his head, and the delivery driver is a hidden rich second-generation heir. Late at night on my way home, an elderly grandmother falls to the ground, and I crouch down to help her up. She smiles kindly and points toward the depths of the alley. I turn my head to take a look, and when I turn back, her tag has changed. Black background, red letters. Serial killer. Bait taken. A knife is already pressed against my lower back. But what she doesn't know is that in my peripheral vision, a man is running past the alley entrance. The tag above his head reads, "Retired Special Forces. Night running." In this city, no one's secrets can be hidden. At least not from me. Working overtime until 1 o'clock in the morning, I dragged my nearly broken body out of the company. The March night breeze still carried a chill, making me shiver. My name is Lai, an ordinary office worker at a small company. As ordinary as can be. The only thing not ordinary about me is what I can see with my eyes. Above everyone's head, a line of tags floats. Most people's tags are quite ordinary. Workaholic. Dog wants to quit. Full-time mom. Anxious college student. Final exam breakdown. But occasionally there are some that are different. Take old Jang, the security guard in our neighborhood, who looks to be in his 50s and chats cheerfully with the elderly ladies every day. The label above his head read, "Retired King of Soldiers. Participated in top-secret missions. Merits classified." The first time I saw it, I almost dropped the package in my hand. Another example is the delivery guy who brings me food every day, riding an electric scooter, skin tan dark. His label read, "Hidden Rich Second Generation. Family assets in the billions. Day 47 of experiencing life." I once doubted that my ability had a bug, but over time, I realized this ability never made a mistake. It was like a cheat code, giving me a God's eye view of the city. I just never thought about using it for anything. Until tonight, I took the usual route through Wana Street, turned into Osmanthus Lane, and 200 meters further was the back gate of the residential complex. Osmanthus Lane was narrow, flanked by old residential buildings. Most of the streetlights were broken, with only the one at the far end still glowing, casting a dim yellow light. I kept my head down, scrolling on my phone, my footsteps echoing through the alley. Then I saw her, an elderly woman with white hair, sitting in a wheelchair. No, she had fallen out of it. Half of her body was lying on the ground. The wheelchair tipped over beside her. 2 tags floated above her head. Helpless, hurting. I instinctively quickened my pace and ran over. "Grandma, are you okay?" I crouched down and reached out to help her up. She looked up, her wrinkled face forming a kind smile. "Thank you, young man." Her voice trembled, as if it might break at any moment. "Grandma, where is your home? Let me carry you back." She stretched out her withered hand and pointed toward the depths of the alley. Right in front. I looked in the direction her finger was pointing. The depths of the alley were pitch black, and I couldn't see a thing. I frowned, feeling that something was off. Then I turned my head. In that very moment, the label above her head changed. Helplessness and pain spread and faded like ink. Instead, there was a line of black text on a red background that I had never seen before. "Serial killer. Prey number 23. Hooked." My blood froze in that instant. Before my brain could even react, a chill crept into the small of my back. The metallic chill pierced through the thin shirt, stinging the skin. "Don't move." Her voice had changed. No longer trembling. Low and steady, like a viper that had been lying dormant for a long time, finally flicking its tongue. "Be a good boy and listen, and it won't hurt." My entire body froze. Sweat instantly broke out on my back, soaking through my shirt. My heart was pounding wildly, as if it were about to leap out of my throat. I could feel the tip of that knife slowly increasing in pressure. With just a little more force, it would pierce the skin. Her other hand grabbed the hem of my clothes. I bit the tip of my tongue, forcing myself to calm down. "The tag. Look at the tag." I stared intently into the depths of the alley. There, crouched in the darkness, was a figure. His tag read, "Accomplice. Responsible for disposing of bodies. Tools in the car. 2 people." I was caught between two people. There was no escape. Going forward meant facing an accomplice. Going back. Wait, my peripheral vision swept toward the entrance of the alley. A figure ran past the alley entrance, moving very fast, wearing athletic shorts and a tank top, with earphones in his ears. The tag above his head shone blindingly bright. Retired Special Forces soldier. 12 years of service. Night running route. Lap 3. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. Now is the moment. There is only this one chance. I'm number 23 now. Don't kill me. I deliberately made my voice tremble, my body shaking violently. I have money. I'll give you the money. Shut up. The old woman hissed in a low voice. Keep moving forward. Her full attention was on me. The tip of the blade shifted slightly. That was the opening. Help. Murder. I let out a roar with all the strength I had left in me. The sound bounced back and forth in the alley, rattling my eardrums. At the same time, I twisted my body sharply and slammed my right elbow backward. The tip of my elbow struck her wrist, and I felt the blade graze my side. A searing pain, but I couldn't care less. I bolted toward the alley entrance. Get back here. Behind her came the furious roar of that woman. Nothing like an old person. The accomplice deep in the alley also moved, heavy footsteps chasing after. But I only stared at the figure at the alley's entrance. He stopped. He took off his earphones and looked into the alley. I saw a line of small text appear beneath his tag. Threat assessment. Sound source locked. Entering combat mode. He moved. No hesitation, no waiting. He charged straight in. His speed was inhuman. I didn't even catch his movements. He brushed past me, a gust of wind pressing against my face. A dull thud came from behind. The old woman screamed. I stumbled and turned back, seeing the man gripping the old woman's knife-wielding wrist with one hand, while his other hand clamped around her neck, lifting her entire body off the ground. The knife clattered to the ground with a sharp metallic sound. The accomplice deeper in the alley turned to flee at the sight. The retired Special Forces soldier didn't even look back. He grabbed the wheelchair from the ground and flung it with one hand. The wheelchair flipped through the air and landed precisely on the accomplice's back. The man fell flat on the ground, letting out a scream. The whole process took no more than 5 seconds. I leaned against the wall, gasping for air. The wound on my side burned with a fiery pain, but I was alive. I looked down at my own hands. They were trembling. Then I looked up toward the former Special Forces soldier. He pinned the old woman down with one hand and glanced back at me, expressionless. Call the police. He said only that one word. When I pulled out my phone, my hands were shaking so badly I almost couldn't press the right numbers. But my eyes were fixed on the tag above the old woman's head. Serial killer. 22nd victim dead. Anger missed. The 22nd. 22 people had died at her hands before me. I was the 23rd. I came so close to being just a cold line in the news. A man walking alone late at night was killed in an alley. The murderer still at large. I dialed 110. The police arrived very quickly. 2 police cars blocked the entrance of the alley, their red and blue lights flashing so brightly that the entire alley lit up. A young officer took me aside to take a statement, while the others examined the scene. The retired Special Forces soldier, who said his name was Joe Ming, was surrounded by another group of police officers for questioning. He remained expressionless throughout, answering briefly and forcefully, as if giving a mission debrief. There was a gash on my side, not deep, but it kept oozing blood. The paramedics put butterfly strips on it and said stitches weren't needed. I nodded absent-mindedly, but my eyes were fixed on the police officers who had arrived. Tags. I was looking at their tags. Most of them were quite normal. Criminal police. 3 years of service. 6th day of overtime. Auxiliary police. Wants to become a regular officer. Under high pressure. But there was one person's tag that sent a chill down my spine. A middle-aged police officer in his 40s, dressed in plain clothes, walked over with a cigarette between his fingers. His tag read, Inside Man, receives $50,000 from the organization monthly, responsible for destroying evidence. I caught my breath. The paper cup in my hand nearly crumpled. He walked over to the old woman, crouched down to take a look, then stood up and whispered a few words to the person beside him. I saw an extra line appear beneath his tag. Does the witness know too much? He was looking at me. His gaze was casual, as if scanning an insignificant passerby, but I knew it wasn't casual. That was an assessment. I immediately lowered my head, putting on an expression of someone still in shock, not yet recovered. My hands were still trembling. No need to fake that. They really were still shaking. Young man. He walked over, his voice gentle, a concerned smile on his face. Were you scared? Tell me, what did you see? I looked up at him. His smile was very sincere. If it weren't for the line of text above his head, I would never have noticed anything wrong. I was just passing by, saw an old lady fall and wanted to help her up. Then she pressed a knife against me. I deliberately stammered, avoided eye contact, and tried my best to show the panic that an ordinary victim would have. Is that all? He stared at me, didn't see anything else. No, nothing. I shook my head, shaking it very hard. He looked at me for 2 seconds, then laughed. All right, go back and get some rest. We'll contact you if needed. He patted me on the shoulder and turned away. That hand on my shoulder felt like a cold snake crawling over me. I watched his back, staring at the line of text above his head. Inside man. Receives $50,000 from the organization monthly. Responsible for destroying evidence. The organization. This old woman had an organization behind her. And this organization had planted a mole within the police force. A serial killer murdered 22 people and was never caught. Now I knew why. I clenched my fists. I can't say. I absolutely cannot say it now. If I were to point him out on the spot without any evidence, it would instead expose my ability. Someone who can see everyone's secrets. That wouldn't be saving my life. That would be throwing it away. After finishing the statement, I declined the suggestion to go to the hospital and walked back to the residential area alone. As I passed the guard post, old Zhang, the retired soldier turned security guard, saw the bandage on my waist and stood up. Shaolin, what happened to you? It's nothing, Uncle Zhang. Just a scrape. I forced a smile. His tag flickered. Retired Soldier King. Detecting anomaly. Hesitating whether to ask further. He didn't press further, but took out the thermos from the guard booth, poured a cup of water, and handed it to me. Don't take the alleys late at night. Yeah. I took the water, and my fingers touched the cup's surface, burning with pain. But that bit of pain sobered me up quite a bit. Back in the rented room, I locked the door, double-locked it, and propped a chair against it. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and took out my phone, searching for serial disappearances in this city. The result? 0. There wasn't a single related news story. 22 people. 22 people died. And not a single word in the news. My fingers froze on the screen. This is wrong. 22 lives lost. There's no way there wouldn't be a single whisper, unless someone was systematically suppressing the news. A mole. More than one. The tag on that middle-aged plainclothes officer read, "Destroy evidence." He wasn't the only mole. I opened the official website of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, scrolled through a few pages, and found nothing useful. Turning off my phone, I stared blankly at the ceiling. I'm an office worker earning $5,000 a month, and I've uncovered an organized serial murder ring with an inside accomplice. And then what? Report it. Report it to whom? What if the person answering the phone is also an inside man? I lay in bed all night without closing my eyes. The wound throbbed with a dull ache, but my mind hurt even more. The next morning, the alarm clock went off. I went through the motions like a zombie, washing up, heading out, squeezing onto the subway, and clocking in for work. Sitting at my desk, I stared at the Excel spreadsheet on the computer screen, unable to take in a single word. That old woman's face kept replaying in my mind. The contrast between that extremely kind smile and the line of black background. Red text made my stomach churn. Lie. The team leader's voice exploded over. Where's the Q3 data report? The client needs it by 2. Right away. I mechanically started typing on the keyboard. Tags. The tags above my colleagues' heads swayed in my peripheral vision. Wants to quit. Looking for opportunities. What to eat for lunch. Indecisive. Secretly trading stocks. Lost 80,000. All trivial daily matters. I felt as if I were living in another world. They were agonizing over what to have for lunch, while I was agonizing over how not to get killed by a serial killer. At noon, I went alone to the convenience store downstairs from the office to buy a rice ball. As I passed the corner, I stopped. A man in a gray windbreaker stood by the roadside smoking, looking as if he was waiting for someone. His tag: Organization Peripheral Observer. Task: confirm the daily routine of the surviving witness. My head buzzed. They've already started watching me. My legs went weak and I nearly lost my balance, but I didn't run. Running would have given me away. I took a deep breath and walked into the convenience store as if I hadn't seen anything, picked out a rice ball, paid, and walked out. As I passed by that man, I even glanced at him. He glanced back at me. Tag update: target behavior normal. No anomalies. Continue surveillance. My back was covered in cold sweat, but my face showed nothing. Back at the office, I hid in a bathroom stall, crouched on the toilet, and covered my mouth with my hand. My breathing was so heavy it felt like drowning. They were investigating me. That old woman was caught, but the organization was still active. They needed to confirm how much I knew, and then get rid of me. I am the 23rd prey. Although I didn't die in their eyes, I had already been marked. I had to do something. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. I scrolled for a long time. No one could help me. My parents were in my hometown, and my friends were all ordinary office workers. Calling the police. There was a mole among them. My finger hovered above the screen, then suddenly stopped. Joe, the retired Special Forces soldier who saved me last night. I didn't have his contact information, but I remembered his tag. Retired Special Forces. Served 12 years. More importantly, he gave a statement last night, and the police had his information. But I couldn't find him through police channels either. The mole would know. I had to use another way. I gritted my teeth and opened my phone's navigation. He was on a night run last night. The tag showed lap 3, meaning he had a fixed route. Osmanthus Lane was on his route. The place where he lived wouldn't be too far. Tonight, I was gonna find him. After work, I didn't go straight home. I took the subway for 3 stops, then suddenly got off midway, switched to a train going in the opposite direction, traveled 1 more stop, and then walked through 2 alleys. I knew the surveillance cameras near the rental apartment well, so I avoided all the routes with dense camera coverage. These counter-surveillance tactics were something I secretly searched for during work today. I wasn't sure if they'd work, but at least it gave me some peace of mind. At 7 o'clock, the sky was not yet completely dark. I crouched beside a pancake stall at the eastern entrance of Osmanthus Lane, bought an egg-filled pancake, and nibbled on it slowly. My eyes were fixed on the intersection. People came and went, their labels varied and diverse. Picking up child from school. Late walking the dog. Walked by the dog for the 3rd time. Just finished arguing. Regretting it. I waited for an hour, finished the pancake, then bought a cup of soy milk. 7:47. A man came running over. Black quick-dry t-shirt, military green shorts, steady pace, even breathing. Tags: Retired Special Forces. Night running. Lap 2. In good shape today. It's him, Joe Ming. I stood up and quickly walked over to greet him. Brother Joe. He stopped in his tracks and glanced at me. Tag change. Rescue target from last night. Wound should have stopped bleeding. Why is he looking for me? Are you the one from last night? Yeah, my name is Lai. How's the wound? It's nothing. Just a flesh wound. That's good to hear. He took off his earphones, unscrewed the cap of his canteen, took a sip of water and looked at me. Did you need something from me? I opened my mouth, suddenly at a loss for words. I can see the labels above people's heads. If I said that out loud, a normal person's reaction would either be, "You're crazy," or calling the police. But I had no other choice. Brother Joe, I need to tell you something. You might think I'm insane. Go ahead. I can see something. What is it? Above everyone's head, information like a tag, showing their true identity, current status, and even thoughts. Silence. His tag changed. Analyzing information. Assessing the other party's mental state. No abnormal behavior detected. 3 seconds later. Prove it. He didn't say I was sick. Didn't mock me. Didn't turn and walk away. 3 words. Prove it. I took a deep breath. You, retired Special Forces soldier, served 12 years. Today is the second lap of your night run, and you self-assess your condition as good. His pupils contracted slightly. Very subtle, but I caught it. Tag change. Alert. Anomaly in information accuracy. Non-public information accessed. Threat assessment in progress. You checked up on me. I can't find this information, Joe. Your years of service, your lapse. Even how you're really feeling right now. None of this is recorded in any database. He stared at me a full 10 seconds, as if making some judgment I couldn't understand. Then he screwed the lid back onto the canteen and tucked it into his waist pouch. Go ahead. Tell me what exactly you want from me. The last line of his tag. Initial trust, but stay alert. Keep listening. I recounted everything that happened last night in full. The old woman's tag changing from helpless to serial killer. That accomplice, the 22 people who had died, and the most crucial part. Among the police who came last night, there was a mole. His expression finally changed. Not shock, but something I had never seen on an ordinary person's face. Murderous intent. It flashed by, but I saw it clearly. Tag sync change. Anger triggered. Protection mechanism. Traitor. Keyword hit traumatic memory. Are you sure? His tag was written clearly. Receiving $50,000 from the organization each month. Responsible for destroying evidence. What did he look like? About 40. Square face. A mole on his left earlobe. Wearing a gray-blue jacket, plain clothes. My observation skills were average, but under last night's circumstances, every detail was carved into my mind like a knife. Zhou Ming fell silent for half a minute after hearing this. There's one more thing. I told him about the gray windbreaker outside the convenience store at noon today. They were already tailing me. The tag showed he was an organization's peripheral observer, confirming my daily routine. Zhou Ming's jaw muscles tightened. Were you followed on your way to see me today? I took counter-surveillance measures. Rode the subway in the opposite direction and took a detour to get here. But I'm not sure if it worked. He glanced around. Follow me. No unnecessary words. He took a step forward, his pace neither fast nor slow, like an ordinary person taking a stroll, but the direction was neither an alley nor a main road. He led me into the courtyard of an old residential building, through an underground garage out the other side, and then turned twice more. Throughout the entire process, he suddenly stopped 4 times, tilting his ear to listen for a few seconds. Finally, we arrived at a storefront on the ground floor of a residential complex. The rolling shutter door was pulled up, revealing a converted garage with a black pickup truck parked inside. In the corner, there was a camp bed, a small refrigerator, and a few storage bins. A map of the city was taped to the wall, with several spots marked in red pen. Sit. He took 2 bottles of water from the fridge and tossed one to me. I sat down on the cot and only then realized my legs were shaking. The adrenaline had worn off, and the fear was setting in. Your ability, he said, unscrewing the water bottle and taking a sip. When did it start? 3 months ago. How did it come about? I don't know. I woke up one morning and it was there. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but later I realized everything I saw was real. Do others know? No, you're the first. He nodded. Aside from those 2, have you met any other members of that organization? No, only the old woman, the accomplice, and the observer from today. 3 people. Did the tag show any organization name, size, headquarters? I thought back for a moment. No, it only showed their positions and current tasks. Explain the limitations of your abilities. You can only see the current state and core identity, not the complete organizational structure. He analyzed it more clearly than I did, but it was already enough. He suddenly said, his tag reading, planning in progress, need more intelligence. This person is a key asset. Key assets. I gave a smile. For over 20 years, this was the first time I had been regarded as a key asset, even though it was while being hunted by a serial murder organization. Lie. He put down the water bottle and looked at me. Are you scared? I wanted to say no, but my hands were still trembling. Scared. Good. That's how it should be. His tone was completely flat. Those who aren't afraid don't live long. But there's one thing you need to understand. He pointed at my eyes. With this ability of yours, sooner or later, more people will find out. When that happens, it won't just be one assassination organization coming for your life. Anyone with secrets will become your enemy. Those words were like a bucket of ice water poured over my head. I had never thought of that angle. I was only focused on the immediate trouble, how to survive this ordeal. But he saw further ahead. He stood up and walked over to the map on the wall. Either you hide this ability forever, bury your head in the sand for the rest of your life, and then one day accidentally expose yourself and wait for death. Or, he turned his head to look at me, his tag reading, determination, recruiting if he agrees. Initiate plan B, you work with me, use your eyes paired with my hands, pry open every hidden festering wound in the city. One by one, I stared at him. His tag gained another line at that moment, something that had never appeared before, as if activated by a certain emotion. Reason for retirement. Comrades betrayed by a mole. 7 killed in action. Revenge unfulfilled. I suddenly understood why he reacted so strongly to the word mole. I also understood why he was willing to trust me. Not because he was naive, but because he was waiting for eyes that could see through people. I stood up. Cooperate, but I have a condition. Speak. Take out the mole within the police. My voice was unexpectedly steady. That old woman killed 22 people without being caught. All because he was helping cover it up. As long as he's still around, calling the police is useless. Reporting it is useless. Nothing works. Joe looked at me for 3 seconds. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not a smile, but a soldier's acknowledgement of a comrade. All right then, let's start with him. Starting the next day, I began living an extremely divided life. During the day, I was the most inconspicuous data specialist in the company, pounding out reports, attending meetings, getting scolded by the team leader, and eating at the cafeteria. At night, I became Joe's human scanner, our first target, that plainclothes mole. I didn't even know his name, only his face and his tag. The first step was to confirm his identity. Zhou Ming gave me a miniature recorder clipped to the inside of my collar, with a lens no bigger than a pinhead. You can't go to the police station. It's too obvious. But you can go around the courthouse near the government cafeteria. That area is a shared living zone for the public security, procuratorate, and court systems. Many people come out for lunch there. Take a walk around that area. Scan with your eyes. Find him and just note down his movements. Don't do anything extra. On the third day at noon, I took some leave and caught the bus to Jingfa Road. That area was indeed full of restaurants where people in uniform and those in plain clothes mingled, eating noodles, smoking, and chatting. I pretended to be looking for a restaurant, my eyes scanning over everyone's heads. Judge, 20 years of service. Herniated lumbar disc. Prosecutor. Newcomer. Nervous. Auxiliary police. Lunch break. Wants to play games. A large number of normal tags. I walked 2 blocks and couldn't find him. Day 4. Continue. Day 5. Continue. Day 6. At the entrance of a beef noodle restaurant, I saw that middle-aged man with a square face and a mole on his left earlobe. He was wearing a dark blue jacket, sitting by the window with a bowl of noodles. Tags. Fan Xian, Deputy Captain of Criminal Investigation Team 2. Mole. Today's task. Delete fingerprint files related to case number 23. Fan Xian, Deputy Captain of Criminal Investigation Team 2. High enough. No wonder the deaths of 22 people could be suppressed. And today's task. Delete the fingerprint records. The old woman's fingerprints. He was cleaning up the mess. A wave of nausea surged through me, nearly showing on my face. But I just passed by that window, glanced at him, and then kept walking. The dash cam captured both his front and side profiles. After returning, I told Zhou Ming everything. He marked a new red dot on the map. Fan Xian, Deputy Captain of Criminal Investigation Unit 2. His voice was calm, but I saw his knuckles turn white as he gripped the kettle. Tag. Suppressing anger. Planning. Can't tip off the snake. We can't report him directly. Zhou Ming said, you mentioned there might be more than one mole in the organization. If we report it to a superior, what if that superior is one of them too? Then what do we do? 2 directions. First, find physical evidence of him destroying evidence. records of him deleting files, money transfers, payments. Don't rely on your labels. Rely on physical evidence, because your abilities can't be used in court. Second, bypass the local police and reach the provincial department or even higher levels directly. Do you have a channel? He didn't answer. The tag flashed. Yes, but need to confirm if the other party is trustworthy. Need lie to scan again. Don't rush. He said his task today is to delete the fingerprint files. You saw the tag says today's task, which means he received an order. Someone up there assigned him the job. You mean follow him, trace upward, find the person who gave him the order, catch them all in one net. I swallowed hard. Brother Joe, I'm just a label reader. What you're talking about, that's a real criminal organization. I know. If I'm found out, I'm dead. I know. Then why did you still ask me to go? He looked at me. You can choose not to go. I won't force you. Silence. His tag. Won't force it but hopes he goes. Success rate of acting alone is below 20%. I saw what he left unsaid. Without me, he probably couldn't handle it, but he still said no coercion. You said yesterday that I am a key asset. He was taken aback. It's written on your tag. His face twitched. Probably the first time he had ever experienced the feeling of having his mind read. Tag. Unaccustomed. Need to be more careful when thinking from now on. This kid is really annoying. I almost laughed. On the 6th day of being hunted by a murderous organization, I almost laughed. I'll continue, I said, but you have to teach me how to stay alive. He looked at me for 2 seconds. Then from the storage box in the corner, he pulled out a collapsible baton and a can of pepper spray, tossing them into my hands. Starting tomorrow, every morning at 6 o'clock. Come here. Physical training plus basic self-defense. 6 o'clock. 5:30 works too. 6 o'clock is fine. The next 2 weeks were a living hell for me. Not because I was being hunted. The observer in the gray windbreaker withdrew after the 3rd day, and the tag read, "Mission complete. Target normal. Surveillance lifted." They concluded that I was just an ordinary victim who knew nothing. I survived the 1st level, but what made my life a living hell was training every morning at 6 o'clock sharp. I had to be at his garage first. A 3 kilometers run to warm up, followed by push-ups, sit-ups, and planks. I threw up on the very first day. On the 3rd day, my legs were so weak I couldn't squat over the toilet. By the 7th day, I could barely manage to run 3 kilometers without stopping. Aside from physical training, he also taught me some practical skills. How to tell if someone is following you on the street, how to blend in and observe in a crowd, and how to use a collapsible baton to strike the most vulnerable parts of the human body. You don't need to be able to beat anyone, he said. You just need to hold out for 30 seconds in any situation, then run. 30-second life-saving technique. It sounded pathetic, but I knew if I had reacted just 1 second earlier last night in the alley, I wouldn't have taken that knife to the waist. Between training sessions, our main mission never stopped. Stalking Fan Xian. Not physical tracking. Too dangerous. He was the deputy captain of the criminal investigation unit, with counter-surveillance skills 10 times better than mine. I used the most basic yet safest method. Casually passing by places where he might appear, gathering information through tags, never more than 5 seconds at a time, like an ant passing by, drawing no attention at all. In 2 weeks, I passed by him 7 times. Each time, his tags were updating tasks. First time, delete fingerprint file completed. Second time, coordinate with forensic expert. Amend autopsy report in progress. Third time, received organization transfer this month. Funds arrived. Fourth time, called the handler. Reported on the aftermath progress. Fifth time, organization code name, cleaner. Eliminate the 3rd link in the chain. Local head. 6th time, pressure increasing. Suspect superiors are investigating. Anxiety. 7th time, meet the manager in person tonight at 8 p.m. VIP room 3 of Dingue Tea House. When I saw this tag for the 7th time, I was buying water at a convenience store on Jingfa Road. My fingers gripped the bottle cap, but after twisting it 3 times, I still couldn't get it open. In-person meeting, 8 p.m. Tonight. If I could spot the manager near Dingue Tea House, that would be the next link in the organizational chain. I dialed Zhou Ming's number. 8 p.m. Tonight. VIP room 3 at Dingue Tea House. Fan Xian wants to meet his handler. Code named Manager. There was a 2-second silence on the other end of the line. How did you know? The tag. It was the 7th time I passed by today, and the tag had been updated. I know Dingue Tea House. It's in the west of the city. That place has a private entrance to the VIP area, and outsiders can't get in. I don't need to go inside. Across from the tea house, there's a row of shops, and in the middle is a milk tea shop with floor-to-ceiling glass windows directly facing the tea house entrance. I just need to sit in the milk tea shop and watch the people coming in and out of the tea house. When the manager comes to the appointment, he will definitely pass through the main entrance. As long as he passes through my line of sight, I'll be able to see his tag. Distance. How far can you see? The farthest I've actually measured is about 30 m. From the tea house to the shop across the street, visually estimated at around 20 m. That's enough. Zhou Ming didn't answer immediately. 5 seconds later, I'll be waiting around the tea house. You're only responsible for watching. Once you've seen it, leave. Stay no longer than 20 minutes. Understood. Lie. If you notice anything unusual, retreat immediately. Don't hesitate. Don't look back. Okay. At 7:30 in the evening, I sat in a milk tea shop across from Dingue Tea House. I ordered a cup of bubble tea, sipping it slowly through a straw, my eyes fixed on the main entrance of the tea house diagonally across. At the entrance stood 2 security guards in black suits. Labeled, Security Guard, Regular Employment, Monthly Salary 8,000, No Special Background, and Security Guard, Regular Employment, New Hire, Legs Aching from Standing, Normal. A silver Audi A6 parked at the entrance of the tea house. Fan Xian got out of the driver's seat, adjusted his jacket, and walked straight through the main door. Tags. Anxiety. Tonight's meeting is crucial. The organization is considering scaling back operations. May be abandoned. Interesting. The organization was considering getting rid of him. 7:52. A black Mercedes-Benz S-Class slowly came to a stop at the entrance of the tea house. The rear door opened, and a person stepped out. In his 50s, with graying hair meticulously combed, wearing a dark gray mouse suit and holding a string of walnuts in his hand, spinning them. He looked like a retired cadre. I stared at the top of his head. A label appeared. Manager. True identity. Former Deputy Secretary of the Municipal Political and Legal Affairs Committee. Retired. Actual controller of the cleaner organization. Money laundering. Assets under his name exceeding 300 million. Related death toll. 87 people. 87 people. Not 22. It was 87. The milk teacup in my hand fell onto the table, and the tapioca pearls rolled everywhere. The girl next to me glanced at me, and I quickly apologized and cleaned up, my hands trembling. 87 lives. Former Deputy Secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Commission. This was not a small clique. This was a murder organization controlled by a former high-ranking official in the political and legal system, which had been operating for who knows how many years. I lowered my head, pretending to wipe the table, and watched the man out of the corner of my eye as he walked through the entrance of the tea house. As he passed by the security guards, both of them bowed at the same time. Not the ordinary bow of a security guard, but the bow of a subordinate meeting a true superior. They recognized him. The tags confirmed it. Both security guards' tags gained an extra line. VIP client identified. Maximum clearance. Unstoppable. I forced myself to sit for 3 minutes, then stood up, took my unfinished milk tea, and walked out of the shop. Couldn't run. I walked slowly, turning into the small path beside, passing through a parking lot. Zhou Ming's pickup truck was parked in the corner. I pulled open the passenger door, sat inside, and closed the door. I saw it. My voice was trembling. Who? I repeated the person's tag information verbatim. Former Deputy Secretary of the Municipal Political and Legal Affairs Committee. Actual controller of the cleaner organization. Money laundering. Assets under his name exceed 300 million. Number of associated deaths. 87. After hearing this, Zhou Ming remained silent for a long time. The car was so quiet that only my breathing could be heard. Then he started the engine. People at this level. He slowly drove out of the parking lot. Can no longer be handled locally. What should we do then? I have someone. His voice changed. It wasn't the usual calm, almost mechanical tone. It carried something that had been suppressed for a long time. My old commander. He's currently serving in the provincial military district. Can he be trusted? I asked the most critical question. Zhou Ming was silent for a second. He was the one, after my comrades were betrayed, who rooted out the mole. But I need you to help me confirm it. I need you to take a look at his tag. Confirm that he is still the person I know. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the dim street ahead. 12 years ago, Zhou Ming's 7 comrades were killed in action due to a traitor's betrayal. 12 years later, under the pursuit of a murderous organization, we had no choice but to confirm whether the last escape route was reliable. Okay, I said, take me to see him. 3 days later, on a Saturday, Zhou Ming drove me to the provincial capital. During the 3.5-hour drive, he barely said a word. I didn't speak either, spending the whole trip watching the tags of passing vehicles and pedestrians outside the window. The tags on the highway were so boring they made me drowsy. Truck driver, sleepy, craving a smoke, road trip, missed exit, arguing. We arrived in the provincial capital at noon. Zhou Ming didn't go directly to the military compound. That place wasn't accessible to just anyone. He parked the car in front of a tea house on an old street near the military compound. The old commander comes here every Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to drink tea and play chess. He's kept this habit for 8 years. I made an appointment with him for today. Does he know I'm coming? He knows someone is coming, but not who nor what for. I only said there was something to report in person. 5 minutes to 2 o'clock. The door of the tea house was pushed open, and an elderly man in his 60s walked in. His posture was as straight as a pine tree, dressed in an ordinary gray jacket and black trousers. He had a crew cut with temples completely white. The moment he entered, my eyes locked onto his tag. Xin Chonghua, former Deputy Chief of Staff of the Provincial Military Command, retired to the second line, 3 first-class merits, leader of the past internal purge, still tracking remaining forces, upright, a life without blemish, a spotless life. When those 5 words appeared, a life without blemish, a spotless life, I felt my whole body relax, like a drowning person finally reaching the shore. Zhou Ming stood up and saluted the elderly man. Chief, Xin Chonghua waved his hand, sat down, and fixed his gaze on me. Is this the person you mentioned? Yes. Hey, young man, have a seat and drink some tea. He poured me a cup of tea. The tea was steaming hot. I picked it up and took a sip. It was so bitter it numbed the root of my tongue. Zhou Ming began. Call me Chief. Xin Chonghua shot him a glare. Chief, this matter is of a very high level, and I must speak to you in person. Then he glanced at me. Meaning, you say it. I took a deep breath. Let me start from 3 months ago. I told him everything. From when I suddenly gained the ability to see tags, to encountering a serial killer in a dark alley late at night, to discovering the mole within the police force, Fan Xian, and across from the tea house, the tag of the former Deputy Secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Committee. After I finished speaking, Xin Chonghua's teacup remained on the table, completely still. His tag changed 3 times during my speech. Receiving information. Stay calm. Anger suppression. Decision mode activated. Accessing network database. Evaluating feasible plans. He remained silent for a full minute. 87 lives. He spoke, his voice very low. The former Deputy Secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Commission has been retired for 5 years. Over these 5 years, I've always felt that those unresolved cases in the West were problematic. I submitted reports 3 times, and each time they were sent back. He looked at Zhou Ming. Now I know why they were sent back. Zhou Ming didn't speak, but his fists clenched tightly. Xin Chonghua turned to me. Kid, this ability of yours. Show me in detail what you can see. Core identity, current mission, emotional state, and key background information. But not everything. For example, I can't see the full list of the organization structure, only the part related to the person in front of me. So you have to look at them one by one. Safe distance within 30 m. Risk of exposure. Right now, no one knows I have this ability except for Brother Joe and you. He nodded. All right. A single word, but it carried immense weight. His final tag was set to decide to intervene, activate old department security channel, bypass local system, directly connect to central inspection team. Central inspection team. My heart skipped a beat. You did something extremely foolish. Shin Chonghua stood up and poured out the leftover tea from his cup. But absolutely right. Foolish. Because just two of you dared to poke such a big hornet's nest. Right? Because if you don't poke it, no one else will. Next, listen to my arrangements. He pulled out an old-fashioned Nokia phone from his jacket. From now on, all communication will use this. I'm giving one to each of you. The number range is internal, not routed through civilian carriers, and untraceable. He pulled two identical phones from his pocket and handed one to me and the other to Zhou Ming. First step. I need you to give me more people. What do you mean? You said Fan Xian's tag shows he is the third link in the elimination chain. The third link. Meaning there are at least a first and second link and a fourth, fifth. You need to help me scan as many chain nodes as possible. How do I scan them? I'll pull up some of Fan Xian's close contacts from old connections. People he interacts with frequently, places he often visits. You go past by those spots and scan them one by one. He looked at me, his gaze sharp. But remember, you're not a detective. You're a scanner. Scan and leave. No contact, no exposure, no unnecessary moves. Feed all the information back to me, and I'll handle the operations. Understood. Second step. I need physical evidence. He looked at Zhou Ming. Your task. Fan Xian deleted the fingerprint records, but the system must have an operation log. Even if he deleted the surface-level data, he might not be able to touch the underlying database backups. I'll arrange for the provincial technical team to remotely extract the data. But I need you to confirm one thing. Whether Fan Xian used his own account or someone else's. Not sure at the moment. Then find a way to confirm. This affects whether the chain of evidence is complete later on. He picked up his coat, ready to leave. As he was leaving, he turned back to glance at me. Kid, whatever the source of that ability of yours, don't let a fourth person know about it in this lifetime. Understood. His tag flickered. Heart says too young but no choice. Come back alive. He left the tea house. Only Zhou Ming and I remained. I picked up the tea which had already gone cold and downed it in one gulp. It was so bitter that I grimaced. Your old superior talks as if he's giving orders. He is giving orders. I'm not a soldier. Zhou Ming glanced at me. From the day you said cooperation, you became one. The following month was the most intense 30 days of my life. Working during the day, training at night, weekend scanning. Shin Chonghua used his old connections to pull up Fan Xian's social network. Not the kind of WeChat friends, but the basic information of people who had frequently met or called him over the past few years. There were 11 names on the list. I needed to pass by the places they frequented, scanning their tags one by one. First, Fan Xian's old classmate who works as a forensic doctor at the city hospital. I registered at the hospital pretending to see a doctor and glanced at the forensic department as I passed by. Tag. Forensic doctor. Acting under Fan Xian's orders. Altered 4 autopsy reports. Inwardly fearful but unable to extricate himself. Second, Fan Xian's former colleague. Now transferred to the traffic police brigade. I pretended to go deal with a traffic violation and sat in the lobby for 10 minutes. Tag. Traffic police. Outer circle of the cleaner organization. Responsible for accident forgery. Involved in covering up 3 murder scenes. 3rd through 7th. A scrapyard owner responsible for disposing of evidence. A taxi driver responsible for transporting the prey. A property manager who provided information on people living alone. A telecommunications technician responsible for surveillance and tracking, and a funeral home worker responsible for quick cremation of bodies. Above each person's head floated different labels, but they all shared one thing. They all bore the word cleaner. This organization was like a precision murder machine, each part playing its role, from locking onto the target to carrying out the killing, from cleaning the scene to destroying the evidence, forming a complete closed loop. And Fan Xian, the deputy captain of the criminal investigation unit, was the most critical link, responsible for ensuring from the source that the police investigation always led to a dead end. The eighth person sent a chill down my spine. A retired community cadre, an old lady in her 60s, kind-faced and gentle-looking, with a label that read, "Cleaner, responsible for target selection, uses community visits to gather information on solitary individuals. 12 years in the trade. Screened over 200 targets. Screened over 200 targets. 87 were ultimately killed. This meant over 100 people were once marked, only temporarily spared for some reason. It might just be that the schedule had them lined up behind the others, and I happened to run into the organization's killer first. I dry heaved in the bathroom for 10 minutes, then wiped my mouth and went on to scan the ninth one. After all 11 were cleared, I compiled the information into a handwritten report. Nothing could be stored on any electronic device, and passed it to Shin Chonghua through Zhou Ming. 3 days later, Shin Chonghua sent a text message via the Nokia phone. Only 6 words. The chain of evidence is closed. That same evening, Zhou Ming told me that the provincial technical team had found Fan Xian's operation logs at the database's bottom layer. He had logged into the system with his own account and deleted 22 fingerprint files, 6 DNA comparison records, and 14 crime scene photos. All operations took place between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. Each operation left behind a digital fingerprint. He thought he had deleted everything cleanly, but the underlying logs were beyond his access. Physical evidence in hand. The list of personnel ready. The organizational structure clear. The net that Shin Chonghua spoke of had finally been cast. When do we make a move? I asked Zhou Ming. It's not us making a move. Then who is it? A joint operation by the Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection and the Central Inspection Team. Old Shin has already submitted the materials through a secure channel. The special task force drawn from the provincial departments has bypassed all the public security, procurator, and judicial systems in this city. When will they arrive? They've already arrived. What? They arrived yesterday. Why do you think Fan Xian's tag has had an extra anxiety on it these past few days? I was stunned. The last time I caught a distant glimpse of Fan Xian, an extra line had appeared on his tag. Sensing something unusual. Someone is investigating. Not sure who. Extremely anxious. He had already caught the scent of danger, but he didn't know where it was coming from, because this time it bypassed all the channels he could control. He was like a spider sitting in the web he had woven, feeling absolutely secure, but someone had reached in from outside the web with a flame. The day of the operation was a weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. I went to work as usual and arrived at the company building. The Nokia phone in my pocket vibrated once. Zhou Ming's text message. Unified action at 8 a.m. This morning, don't go to Jingfa Road. I stood at the company entrance, my heart pounding wildly. Then, as if nothing had happened, I swiped my card to enter, sat down at my workstation, and turned on the computer. The numbers on the form blurred before my eyes, and I couldn't focus on a single one. 9:15. My phone vibrated again. Fan Xian, report to the case. I took a deep breath and shoved the phone back into my pocket. 9:47. Forensic pathologist reporting for duty. 10 o'clock sharp. Scrap recycling station owner. Present. 10:30. Telecommunications company technician. Present. 11 o'clock. The manager, former deputy secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Committee, has been brought to justice. 11 text messages. 11 people. All had been brought to justice. The last text message arrived at 12:03 p.m. Operation complete. No one escaped. I put down my phone and slumped onto the desk, my face buried in my arms. My body was trembling, not from fear, nor from excitement, but from an indescribable release. 87 people. Those who walked alone in the dead of night. Those who lived in old neighborhoods. Those who were carefully selected. People whose disappearance no one would care about. They were finally seen. The team leader walked over and patted me on the shoulder. Lai, you don't look well. Did you get heat stroke? I'm fine. Just didn't sleep well last night. Remember to submit the Q4 report this afternoon. Okay. The team leader left. I looked at the tag above his head. Team leader. Wife's birthday today. Forgot to buy a gift. Dead meat. I smiled. These trivial little labels looked especially endearing at this moment. After work, I went to Joe's garage. He was sitting on the hood of the pickup truck, holding a can of beer in his hand. Next to it sat a six-pack with 2 cans already opened. Want one? I took it, pulled the tab, and took a big gulp. The bubbles stung my eyes, making tears stream down. Joe Ming said, "The case transfer went smoothly. The Joint Task Force of the Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection and the inspection team has taken over all materials, including the personnel information you compiled. Of course, your name won't appear." How did they explain the source of the intelligence? The database bottom layer logs from the provincial department's technical team, bank fund flow tracking, and the investigation files Old Shin privately accumulated over 5 years. Your tagged information was only used to point the direction. The actual convictions rely entirely on physical evidence. In other words, I don't exist. You never existed from beginning to end. But was Fan Xian's reaction when he went in? Zhou Ming didn't give a direct answer. Old Shin said that when they searched his office, they found a spare phone in a drawer which contained 3 years of communication records between him and the handler. He hadn't deleted a single one. To keep as insurance. If the organization ever tried to abandon him, he would use the communication records to threaten the handler. So he didn't trust the organization either. People like him don't trust anyone. But he underestimated one thing. The manager also had a backup plan. When searching the manager's home, they found a safe containing all the videos of Fan Xian taking bribes. The two of them each held the other's fatal weakness, yet both thought they were the smarter one. I shook my head. Stupid, right? But a stupid person killed 87 people. Silence for a moment. I finished my beer and crushed the can. Brother Joe. Yeah. What's next? He glanced at me. What do you mean? I still have this ability. You said there are festering sores in the city. The cleaner is one of them. How many more are there? He didn't answer immediately, looking up at the dim light on the garage ceiling. His tag. Thinking. Hesitating. Not wanting him to take risks but knowing he is right. I waited. Last week he finally spoke. When I was running at night, I passed that unfinished building in the south of the city. 3 people came out of it carrying a large plastic crate at 2 o'clock in the morning. Did you see their tags? No, I couldn't have. Yes. I can't see, but you can. He looked at me. The unfinished building in the south of the city. Are you interested in passing by? I squeezed the empty can, staring at the reflection on it. 3 months ago, I would have avoided something like this at all costs. Now, when are we going? No rush. Rest for a couple of days first. You've lost 10 pounds and you look like death. What about you? I'll go scout the place first. Once I confirm it's safe, I'll take you there. All right. I stood up and tossed the can into the trash bin, pausing at the garage entrance. Brother Joe. Yeah. Thank you for running through that alley that night. His tag flickered. What a lousy line. Cheesy but no regrets. He didn't look back. Go back to sleep. I let out a laugh and walked into the night. Above my head, the sky was pitch black with no stars in sight. The streetlights stretched my shadow long. I took a few steps, my hands in my pockets, feeling the rectangular outline of that Nokia phone. I remembered earlier today in the company elevator. The new intern girl brushed past me, her tag reading. First day. So nervous. Hope my colleagues are nice. I smiled at her at that moment and said, keep it up. Her tag instantly gained a new line. So happy someone said, keep it up to me. It was just that simple. But in that moment, I suddenly felt that perhaps this ability isn't just for catching criminals. Maybe it could be used for something else. Something smaller, quieter, something that doesn't need anyone to know. I quickened my pace and headed toward the rental apartment. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, I still had to get up and run. The scar on my waist sometimes still itched, but it no longer hurt. I rested for 3 days. On the evening of the 4th day, Zhou Ming drove me to the south of the city. The unfinished building was on the edge of the southern industrial zone. A 12-story commercial residential structure that had been halted halfway through construction. Its gray concrete skeleton stretched toward the sky like an exposed set of bones. Surrounding it were abandoned construction sites, overgrown wasteland, and a few scattered warehouses stacked with building materials. Very few people, but not completely none. Zhou Ming parked the car in an abandoned gas station 300 m away and turned off the lights. I've scouted the place twice before, between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. People come out of the basement of the unfinished building. At least 2, at most 5. What do they do? Not sure, but the size and shape of that plastic crate. It looks like it's meant for a person. My stomach started churning again. We're not going over there today, he said. Across from the unfinished building, there's a row of abandoned mobile homes about 25 m away. I set up an observation post in one of them in advance. You'll watch from there, and I'll keep guard on the perimeter. If they come tonight, you scan the tag. If they don't, we pull out. Not a minute longer. Got it. 10:40. I lay by the window on the second floor of the prefab house. The glass was long gone from the window, and the cold wind poured straight in. I wore a black hoodie, pulling the hood over my head, trying to make myself as small as possible. From this angle, I could just see the entrance to the basement of the unfinished building. A slope, half covered by a metal barrier. I waited for 40 minutes. 11:23. The iron sheet barrier was pushed open, and 2 people walked out from inside. One was tall, wearing work clothes and a mask. The other was short, wearing a leather jacket with a cigarette dangling from his mouth. Behind them, there was another person pushing a handcart with a large blue plastic bin on it, exactly as Zhou Ming had described. 25 m away, right within my limit. I stared intently at the tops of their heads. Tags appeared: tall one, porter, remnant member of the cleaners, responsible for transporting unprocessed bodies. Second trip tonight. Short one, underground casino enforcer, part-time cleaner, subcontractor, knows what's in the box, doesn't care. The person pushing the cart, street sweeper, bottom-level executor, first time participating, hands trembling, wants to run but dares not. Remnant members of the cleaner, Fan Xian and the manager were caught, but not all of their underlings were captured. And what they were doing. My gaze fell on that blue plastic crate. The label read, "Transfer of unprocessed corpses." That meant in that basement, there were still victims' bodies that had not yet been dealt with. There might have been more than one. My fingers tightened on the edge of the windowsill, my knuckles cracking. The 3 people pushed the cart heading deep into the wasteland, where a van was parked. And the moment I saw its license plate, a tag automatically surfaced. Clone plate, real owner deceased, vehicle unregistered. I noted it all down. They loaded the boxes into the van, closed the doors, and drove off. The taillights disappeared into the darkness of the industrial area. I lay by the window and waited another 10 minutes, making sure no one else came out. Then I headed back to the pickup truck and told Zhou Ming everything. His fist slammed down on the steering wheel. Didn't clean them all out. Does old Xin know? I'll report it now. He pulled out his Nokia. 10 minutes later, Xin Chonghua replied. Already notified the task force. Operation tonight. Do not approach further. The next day, I was woken up by my phone vibrating. Zhou Ming's text message. In the basement of the unfinished building, 7 bodies were found. The remaining 3 members have all been detained. 7 bodies, adding the previously confirmed 87, that made 94 lives. I sat on the bed, staring at the number on my phone screen. The sound of the early morning bus starting up came from outside the window. The city was waking up. Most people would never know that while they were asleep, 7 bodies were dug up from the basement of an unfinished building in the southern part of the city. They would never know that an ordinary person who could see tags was lying by the window of an abandoned shack, crouching in the cold wind for 2 hours. They would never know that a retired Special Forces soldier stood guard in the wilderness for 3 hours. They would never know that a retired general, now in the second line, made 7 phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, mobilizing a cross-regional task force. They would only see a single line in tomorrow's news. Our city has cracked a major serial murder case. The criminal gang has been rounded up, and all involved parties have been brought to justice. My name wouldn't be there. Zhou's name wouldn't be there either. There wouldn't even be Xin Chonghua's name. But those 94 people, they deserved to be remembered. I turned off my phone, lay back on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. The sky was beginning to lighten, light seeping through the gaps in the curtains, little by little, like water spreading across the floor. I closed my eyes. I still had to go to work today. The Q4 report hadn't been submitted yet. Once the case officially entered the judicial process, things gradually drifted away from my life. News reports were overwhelming. The cleaner case became a nationwide major case, with the joint notice from the Provincial Disciplinary Commission and the inspection team naming over a dozen individuals. Fan Xian was expelled from the party and removed from his post, then transferred to the procuratorial authorities. The former deputy secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Commission, known as manager, was arrested on suspicion of organizing and leading a mafia-style organization and intentional homicide. The old woman who pretended to fall, whose real name was Jiawan, was 61 years old and was the most efficient killer in the organization, having completed 22 murders on her own. Online comments exploded. An old woman killed 22 people. Is the deputy secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Committee the mastermind behind the scenes? Even TV dramas wouldn't dare to write such a plot. Those who went missing over the years. Turns out they were cleaned up. I occasionally came across these news stories and just swiped past them. Nothing worth watching. What appeared in the news was always just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the water, the tags. Those late-night text messages, those 2 hours spent lying by the window. None of it would ever appear in any report. And I didn't need them to. Life has returned to its normal track. Going to work, working overtime, squeezing onto the subway, buying a G. But some things have changed. Every morning at 6 o'clock, I still go to the garage to run. Not for any other reason. It's just a habit. Zhou Ming said my physical fitness had upgraded from weakling to able to outrun most dangers. In his words, at least you won't be caught by an old lady in a wheelchair anymore. I nearly smashed the baton over his head. Xin Chonghua occasionally sends a text message through the Nokia. Sometimes it's a place name, sometimes it's a person's name, sometimes it's just 3 words. Passing by. I know what this means. This city, or rather any city, hides far more beneath the surface than we realize. The cleaners are just one part of it. And then there are those labels floating above everyone's heads, flashing before my eyes every day. Contractor, 23 months of unpaid wages, protected by someone up top. Property manager, embezzled maintenance fund, amount $4,700,000. Official from Bureau XXX, accepted bribes, currently arranging a transfer. I can't control everything, but what I can do is hand over what I've seen to those who can. The rest, leave it to the system, to the law, to those who are still doing their jobs seriously. On Saturday afternoon, as usual, I went to Joe's garage. He was sitting on the pickup truck, polishing an old military saber without even looking up. There's an illegal underground clinic in the east of the city. Someone died there last week. The neighbors reported it 3 times, but no one did anything. What's on the label? Haven't scanned it yet. Passing by tomorrow. Sure. I grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge and leaned against the wall to drink. My phone buzzed. It was the work group chat. The team leader was urging for the report again. I sighed and replied, "Coming right up, bro Joe, yeah. Don't you think my life is pretty fragmented right now? During the day, I'm doing reports. And at night, what was it again? A human scanner. City CT scanner. That's enough." I took a gulp of water and walked toward the door. "See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Don't forget your Nokia." Got it. I walked out of the garage and merged into the evening streets. The streetlights came on, casting an orange glow over the pedestrians. The labels above each person's head glowed faintly in the twilight. Off work. Happy. Waiting for girlfriend. Nervous. Want to eat hot pot. Torn between half and all spicy. Retired. Walking the dog. Peaceful days. Trivial, insignificant. Everyday life filled with the warmth of daily routines. Every single tag is very ordinary, but it is precisely these ordinary labels that are the most precious things in a city. And those black background, red letter ones. The meaning of my existence is to ensure they become fewer and fewer. I pulled my hat lower and quickened my pace. There are things to do tomorrow. The end.